Love the cue from Nalguidan, and I think this matchup is going to tell us a lot. Nalguidan does have another reasonable deck into Face Hunter with Shaman, but he would much prefer to cue that Shaman into... no, there's no priest.
It's so messy.
Yeah, it actually is really messy. But regardless, if he wins a poor matchup, you're good no matter what in last year's standing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fled's got a really interesting choice, actually. This is a very close, about as good a hand as you can get, but the neophytes aren't as good as you would expect against priests anymore, because nobody's playing spells in their priest decks anymore, or barely playing any spells. They're playing Kazakus in that slot instead for the large part. And Nalguidan, no exception. He is also playing Kazakus in that slot, the 4-drop slot. Oh, we're going to frazzle some freshmen. Multiple times.
We do not condone hazing on this broadcast.
These raised deads, we're going to have to be careful. We're going to sort of think we're stuck in some sort of infinite loop if we're not careful. But yeah, Fled is in with a good chance here, thanks to the opening hand of Nalguidan of getting ahead on board as Hunter. And like any aggro matchup, if you do get ahead on board, you tend to stay there.
Yeah. Oh. There's some exceptions, but this is a very poor opening for Nalguidan. Has drawn 3 of pretty much the 4 spells that he runs naturally in the deck. Obviously, there is Mancrick that adds another spell to the deck that Thrive in the Shadows can then pull. But now, at least one of the Twilight Deceptors in his list is not active any longer. So we're looking at a very difficult situation for Nalguidan in this instance. He may even consider playing Guardian Og Merchant, raise deading just to play the freshman again, just to play on curve.
The whole Thrive in the Shadows situation is really interesting to me. You want to play at least one because you want to get Enraged Mancrick. That's the reason it is played. You play Raised Deads because it's really good at obviously getting back 2 for 1, playing your cards straight back down, so you might as well Thrive to get your good cards. And then people try, because they want to guarantee the Enraged Mancrick situation, they try and be really, really tight on how many spells they play. But this situation just seems to come up too often.
Yeah, it really does. But I mean, one of the downsides of the priest list is the games are going to end before you get through a large portion of your deck list, right? You're usually only getting through maybe 15 cards in a game.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, oftentimes less. Wow. Okay, that is maybe the worst pan out possible in this opening, so. Which is. I don't think that's exaggerating at all. I think that just might be the case.
So if the minions had been the homunculuses, I think it would have been the actual worst possible start. Full stop. It's pretty grim as it is, though. That's definitely a lot of wasted resources there for Nalguidan.
Yep. Fled is not going to stop here either. He's going to be able to go a little bit wide on board here. Usually number of minions is a pretty big deal. Also buffing this Demon Companion out of range of the hero power is also quite a big deal. Just because Nalguidan can't really swing this board easily. Hero powering a 1-1. It is essentially a 1-1 even though it's buffed right now. It's pretty rough. Okay. Well, Nalguidan's got a lot of 1-drops to try and fight back. That is the...
What do the cards say?
The upside of the situation. Downside is 2 completely dead cards in hand until Mancrick is drawn. And then one of those cards will be dead for the whole game.
I like Raised Deading again here. Get another Org Merchant, shoot both of the 2-1s, and have a load of stuff on board. It's a really low value play, but I think it might be the only play to get yourself wide enough to have a chance to win the game. If he starts shooting things with his hero power, he's going 2 mana versus 1 mana, and you don't win that race. I don't feel, but he disagrees.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Yeah.
See how it works out.
I also think this was fine. There was a lot of different options there. He could have raised it at first, played Tour Guide, Hero Powered, and went super wide on board. But I think he wants to see what the hand is like for Fled before he makes that read. He will be able to take out the something with the Hero Power next turn for Tour Guide. It's just I'm worried he might be floating mana next turn that he would otherwise want to spend on the Hero Power.
To be fair to him, he's in a bad spot, and what you just said there's actually woken me up. Yeah, he's played to the rest of his deck here. If he draws Benedictus, you give up and you play game 2. But there's a lot of 2-drops, there's a lot of 1-drops in the deck, so he was playing, okay, if I float mana here, it's because my draw is so bad, I'd have lost anyway. So now you've worded it like that, I actually think it was okay.
What must I do?
He's going to take a lot of damage from these Trampling Rhinos, though. That is a fact. Even if he does manage to take board, we might find ourselves in a situation where Fled is just winning the health race. And one of the highlightable cards in this list for the Priest is going to be that Void Touch Attendant. And as soon as you fall significantly behind on health as the Priest, especially against Hunter, Void Touch Attendant becomes more of a liability. Oh, there it is. More of a liability than a benefit. Because it's both heroes take an extra damage from all sources, which means Hunter Hero Power does 3, Quickshot does 4. It just makes things even worse.
Yep, and he's choosing not to play it for that reason. And not totally dead yet, but now these Rhinos are going to more than compensate for the fact, for now at least, that Fled is slightly behind on board. Obviously Nalguidan knows this exists because of last turn, and this is so much damage. It's basically lethal, to be honest.
Yeah. He can also attack with the Demon Companion afterwards. It's another 7 damage to face. Yeah, he's at 6. The second Trampling Rhino in hand will be lethal, pretty much no matter what, honestly. So, rough game for Nalguidan. Pretty terrible opening hand, but that's kind of how Priest is. It's a very feast or famine deck. And in those board-based matchups where if you fall behind, you lose, it can be very difficult.
Yep, big win for Fled because his Hunter not in a great spot where the mirror match is his best match, as you said at the start. So getting a win with it and then possibly getting a chance at the mirror, although you'd imagine the Shaman will come to play now for Nalguidan. It's a big deal, and certainly can still get it done against the Shaman as well. It's just that it's not favoured. Like, it is one of the better bad matchups, I guess.
Yeah. So taking a look at Nalguidan, he's been here since the beginning, 6th season of Grandmasters. Already qualified for the 2021 World Championship. He is our reigning champion in the Americas. He won Season 1, and even though his record is not great, he's sort of been picking it up over the past, I would say, year. He started off pretty rough in Grandmasters in his first 3, even 4 seasons, and then has really, come into his kind of own in the last year. So 51.9% is pretty good given, just how poor his start was.
Yeah, last season he was 65.5%. 19 wins and only 10 losses over the whole season against all these Grandmasters. So that's reinforcing what you just said. His first season was 43%, and he's built on that every season pretty much until he's become a very strong player. He was always a strong player, but maybe, I don't know, didn't keep it together at key times, is how I want to put it, which sounds a bit rude, but there you go. That's my job, to tell people how I see it. But last season he got into some clutch situations and actually got them over the line, and I think that was a big change in his play, and I think that's come about through 6 seasons of Grandmasters. I think that just helps you get more and more comfortable and be less sloppy in your play.
Yeah, I would say so. He's been quite clean. He had even one of the best win rates in GM on Spell Mage last season, so it was quite a sight to behold. One thing that has kind of eluded Nalguidan is this deck that's kind of his, that we can point at and say, yep, he's really good at that one. Mm-hmm. And it was refreshing to see that last season, because I think that is the beginnings of a mark of an all-time great. So taking a look at the quest Shaman, there's 1 copy of Earth Elemental, 1 copy Primal Legend, 1 investment opportunity, 1 overdraft.
So
man.
The only defense here, so the argument is always pick one and have two of them, right? That's the argument we're laughing at here. But they didn't have much time to practice, and so he's picked one of the 4 cards he wasn't sure about and just gone with that, because it's definitely not right, but how wrong can it be, if that makes sense? It's going to be pretty close to right, one way or the other, rather than make a mistake. If he thinks he's the best player, why take him a chance on picking the wrong one and actually getting it very wrong? That's my argument here.
Fantastic argument. Can't argue with that argument.
I'm sure you'll find a way. Perpetual Flame, the deck, as Raven would call it. And that's kind of what it is here. It's a super strong card in this deck. And I think the only choice is whether you keep 2 or 1 Perpetual Flame, yeah. Okay, that's the correct answer. It's to keep 1 and then get a Diligent Note Taker to get the other one back for free.
Yeah, how about 2 Diligent Note Takers? He doesn't have the nutty opening on the coin, which is you play Quest on 1. On turn 2, you coin Diligent Note Taker, Lightning Bloom, Earth Elemental. Mm-hmm. And because he didn't draw either Earth Elemental or Lightning Bloom on that turn, he doesn't have that ultimate turn 2 play. Because you play 2 Lightning Blooms in the Earth Elemental, even though that's overloading for 6, because it's 3 overload cards, it completes your quest, and then you have a 2/3 and a 7/8 on turn 2 on the coin.
And you've completed the quest, so you're, yeah.
Wow.
Lovely. But he's okay here. He's absolutely okay. You can afford to take a bit of damage because later on you start to put up the taunts. But we have seen that the rhinos against the taunts of Shaman, if you go too low on health, can become problematic because they can do damage through those taunts effectively.
Yeah. And with True Aim Crescent, even more, as we've seen 2 days in a row now from Fled. Saw it yesterday in his match, and then saw it today. Huh. Double Rhino plus True Aim Crescent. Well, you can't pick both.
But tracking is no longer going to throw one away for the whole game, at least. In the olden days, this would have been a disaster. But yeah, because the other cards were discarded. But now they do just go back into the deck. Well, you've only got 1 True Aim and you've got 2 Trampling Rhinos, and you probably need both. So True Aim feels good, but it is so slow. Maybe he doesn't take it. Okay, he's going with that. I like this.
Yeah, I don't think the Rhino was the choice just because he has ways in his deck to tutor out the Rhino with the Warsong Wranglers. I was torn between the Piercing Shot and the True Aim Crescent. True Aim Crescent is like a guaranteed 4 damage or a mixture of damage and board control, whereas Piercing Shot is also a mixture of damage and board control, but it's not flexible. So opening will be punished here by the Perpetual Flame, but Fled's got some damage that's going to stick. It is overload for 3. Nalguidan could coin out a Novice Zapper or Perpetual Flame next turn to reset the Mana Crystals, which I imagine he will do because he can go coin Novice Zapper into Feral Spirits. Or he doesn't even need to coin. He gets the... sorry, I thought he was overloaded for 4 there. Still, though, can go Novice Zapper plus Feral Spirits.
No Slogger is an important aspect right now because he's going to have the board under control apart from this Felmore, which might do anything, including not go face occasionally. But realistically, if he doesn't heal back up soon, Fled's got a lot of damage in hand. If Nalguidan can pick up the Slogger and just gain 6 health back, that feels like the end of the game almost to me. Yeah. Again, allowing for Rhinos and True Aims might be a little bit reductive of me there, but realistically I think Fled needs to get it in the next 2 turns, but Nalguidan needs to gain some health.
Excuse me, that was only 1 overload. Watching Sottle and Raven earlier, Sottle made the comment that they always underestimate how far the quest progress is. Like, oh, it's you know, he's 1 spell into the second one. Nope, he's 1 spell away from the final one. I tend to overestimate. I just assume that as soon as the Shaman plays an overload card, their mana get reset. So Nalguidan's in a situation where he kind of needs a Slogger. If we look at the damage from hand, Fled has Wound Prey, Quick Shot, Hero Power next turn, which is 6. If he picks up any form of damage, I mean, if Prison Felmall goes face, it's just lethal. But if he picks up any more damage, then he's in quite a good spot.
And Nalguidan actually going for the taunt here, just to stop this from potentially hitting face. I was tempted by the guidance. I thought maybe he was in enough trouble that he may have needed to try and find some lifesteal, to be honest.
Yeah. That's he can always guidance next turn and find lifesteal, and this puts more power on board.
If there is a next turn.
Okay. Okay, it's Volpertinger off the top. So there will be a next turn, unless... Yes, there will be a next turn no matter what. There's not a single card in the deck that Quick Shot could pick up. That would be 2 mana, and he would need to deal 5 damage for 2 mana.
Yeah, if that had gone face, it would have been it. I feel like Fled here, not much choice apart from, I know, the Hyena targeting. Just jam everything onto the board, Quick Shot to get the extra card now, in case you pick up an expensive card next turn.
Yep.
Try and find yourself a Rhino, and then you get 2 attacks with the Rhino. Keep that 1 true aim charge left. He's thinking of something we're not seeing, though, or that I'm not seeing at least.
Holding on to a minion for Piercing Shot, maybe?
Okay.
But Piercing Shot on anything, there's no way the Healing Totem is dying.
Maybe he feels this changes his clock by a whole turn, so maybe he gets 1 extra full card out of it. That's the only thing I can think of here. Oh, he's not going to play... this is the problem. He doesn't want to play the Wolpertinger in case of the Slogger. He's countered his outs, and he's decided he's got more chance of top-decking lethal than Nalguidan has of not gaining the 6 health. That's what he's doing.
All right, that makes sense to me.
So he's left himself 2 turns, most likely, to... Well, he's got Hero Power wins that way. Has he counted it? Is it just Hero Power, and there's no real way out?
There's still healing that can be found. The Tidal Surge can be found from Guidance. It's also, I think, a 2-turn lethal setup for on the downside. So he's looking for damage.
He's got the Wind Fury. That's plenty damage.
This isn't lethal, right?
Oh, now you mean? It's a lot of damage. Oh my god.
Wind Fury? How many overloaded mana crystals is that?
He's got 6, I believe.
Plus 1 spell damage?
7 plus 1.
Wow. He put him to 1, and the Rhino on the top! Oh my gosh!
Oh my.
Wow.
And that is Fled's doing. If he'd played a minion last turn, the Perpetual Flame would have overloaded more crystals, and Nalguidan had mana to spare. So he would have done more damage, I think.
Yep. I mean, he's absolutely not playing around that specific scenario, right? At least I wouldn't think so. But still, that's a nice spot from him. The Canal Slogger was the big one that he was playing around, and Fled just kind of checking all the boxes of, all right, I'm not going to win board. I'm not going to even try to contest the board. I'm just going to go all face because that's what my hand is telling me to do. So, like the play there from Fled, and Nalguidan so close. 1 overload card away from, or 1 overloaded mana crystal away from lethal damage. Very close, very, very close. And there was a lot of damage spells left in the deck for Fled. He could have picked up either one of the Rhinos, either one of the Piercing Shots. He couldn't have picked up Runeling's Rifle because he would have needed to attack into a damaged minion, and he was at 1 health. There was a second aim shot. There was a second quick shot. There was, I think he plays 2 wound praise. There was a good amount.
Yeah.
Tracking would have been 1 as well. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so he was in a good spot there, and he took a lot of time on that previous turn, and it paid off. Like, he came to a conclusion that worked for him, and I think it was probably the right one. Very hard to tell without actually going through and doing all the maths. That's why he took so long about it, but it worked out, and some nice thinking going on there. And now Nalguidan is down to his 50-50 shot, having lost with the two favoured matchups.
Yep. And looking at the differences in the lists, there is differences because their lineups are not equal. There's 2 Wound Praise in Vled's lineup as opposed to 1 in Nalguidan's. They both play double Trium Crescent. It's a Kolkar Pack Runner for Nalguidan in place of a Wound Prey. So maybe that's going to come into play just because Kolkar Pack Runner can be a good way to fight back on the board, but it is slower. And a lot of times the board is often decided by turn 3 when the new Kolkar Pack Runner cost would come down. It is a little bigger because for the cost increase. Blizzard went ahead and buffed its stat line as well, same as Darkglare. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to push it in a favored direction. Most of the time it's not going to come into play. This is as close to a mirror match as you're going to get.
Now, this is an interesting change, though. I think before the Pack Runner was nerfed or changed, you couldn't keep Felmore because the Pack Runner would just generate so many 1/1s that the Felmore would have no chance of going face, and it's cumbersome and 5/3 and didn't really do much. But Fled's kept it in this one. Maybe I was wrong about previous, but I tended not to keep it. But now, when the board's not going to be quite so wild on turn 2, you can just play the Felmore out there, maybe.
Yeah.
Always funny to watch aggro matchups where you actually take 2 damage there just to protect a 1/1. And obviously it's correct. It's just so interesting to me how these matchups work. It's all about getting control of the board so you can just make favourable trades. You've got control of the board, you get to choose what gets traded, and it snowballs from there. That's why the opening turns are so interesting.
Yeah, Nalguidan, he's not in a great spot right now. His hand is becoming pretty expensive, and it's very one-dimensional. It's all just, face damage. So he doesn't really have an option but to try and initiate a race. Volperting is actually a decent pickup because it might block some of the damage from the imprisoned Felmaw. Doesn't want that to go face. And then he just has an aim shot face. I would imagine the weapon swing would come in too because there's really only one play in this scenario.
Yeah, and it's almost reminiscent, except totally coincidental this time, of the Shaman play. Like, there's nothing to target that he really wants to target. And, yeah, Fled's just going smoothly now. Felmore resolving, and it didn't go face, but it's big enough onto this empty board to be of use next turn as well. Nalguidan needs to pick up something useful like a Rhino of his own. Oh dear.
I mean, when you're behind on board and you need kind of a Hail Mary to win a game, Imprisoned Felmaw is a reasonable pickup in that, in that scenario. It's just, will it be enough, right? That's the big question.
I wonder.
He's going to be so far, unless he picks up something really good next turn, he's going to be so far behind on board. This thing doesn't get to attack until turn 8. That's a long, long time away.
Turn 7.
Well, okay, so
if he plays it now.
Yes, he doesn't get to direct an attack until turn 8, though, right?
Oh yeah. But
it chooses its own path.
He's choosing an attack. Don't worry. I like the trade-off of the Volpertinger as well to play around the possibility of Rhino. If Fled spends all his mana here playing Rhino, at least Nalguidan does have a piercing shot that can deal with it.
So the Mancrick's the easy part of this one. Really wants to press that button as often as possible, but he's got a chance here to go so wide on board, get a massive board lead.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you forfeit a couple of damage here just to look at this. Look at this great board. Nalguidan needs to pick up something amazing right away. Well,
I don't think it's enough.
right, if
you look at his next 2 turns, even if he goes Warsong Wrangler this turn, next turn he's got 7 mana. He could Warsong Wrangler and then I don't even know. Let's let 24. They're both at 24, and they both have loaded up hero powers from aim shots. But Flood just has such a massive board. And counting damage, even if this Imprisoned Felmaw goes phased, and Nalguidan weaves in 2 more attacks from Trium Crescent, he's not looking at pretty much any world where he gets a lethal over the next 2 turns.
So he's going to do it kind of backwards, which makes sense because he's going to take less damage in those spots. Obviously, he has the true aim Rhino cheat going on, so yeah, he's going to see if he can hit the face with the Velmor, but Fled's not messing around. He's going to say, okay, 1 in 7, good luck to you, my friend. You can hardly bear to look. And it goes face. TJ goes face, and he draws the Rhino. That's got to be lethal with the true aim.
There's not a good target for him to attack into, right? If he attacks into the Man-Crick, that is...
There's not. Yeah, it's 3.
He can attack into the Rhino. No, he can't attack into the Rhino.
The Man-Crick's fine.
Felmaw will attack first.
He does a damage.
Felmaw will attack first.
Oh. Yeah.
Well played.
I'm stupid. Who knew?
There wasn't a single target that he could hit because there was 3 1-health minions on board. Trium Crescent would kill it. The Rhino, he Trium Crescents, the Imprisoned Felmaw kills it. Everything else, the Imprisoned Felmaw just kills.
Yep. Yeah,
so there wasn't a target. It was close, though. It was very close.
Oh, I've seen Fled kill so many times that way that I was just assuming it's automatic, but it's not. Of course, the Felmor gets to attack. I was getting all excited there, TJ.
Man, yeah, that was quite the excitement.
Shows how powerful this deck is. I mean, Fled's taken it down 3-0 in amongst all the shouting, but the bigger story is just how stupid Hunter can be, how powerful it can be on those big turns.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was like any pan out in that situation that would have let him do it, but no, Imprisoned Felmaw would just kill off everything. There was no way for him to kill off his own Imprisoned Felmaw. There was no way he could have played that turn any differently, right? Yeah, it's just a rough situation. If any of those minions had just one additional health, he might have been able to do it. Just wasn't quite able to get there. So now Fled will move on to the finals. Face Hunter just all the way through. Going back to kind of last season, not a deck that you'd expect for Fled to kind of be piloting in a 3-0 scenario. He was kind of this breaker. He preferred a lot of those slower, more like targeted decks, but good old Face Hunter getting the job done for Fled. He's going to go up against Kalos Luna or Monsanto.
That, for me, is the difference between your first season in Grandmasters and your second. Your first season, you come in, you want to break the meta, and you try every week to break the meta. Second season, when the opportunity to break the meta comes up, you take it. But if the meta just tells you these are the 4 decks you've got to play, sorry, Fled, and you're going, okay, this week I play those 4 decks and I get my points and I move on to week 3. And I think he's done a good job of just accepting this week that a good lineup with good decks and make a lineup that works for what you think the meta is going to be is the way forward. And sometimes you have to play the meta decks. That's just the way it is.
Yep, that's just the way it is. And, any great player is going to recognize that. So Fled has won the semifinal battle for Latin America. Brazil prevails. But now, who will win the Canadian province battle? Kalos Luna or Monsanto, the second semifinal.